Okay. So in this demo, we can see how to connect to the identity and access management key clock deployed on node 4 to get an admin token, administration token, in order to register users and the clients that could interact with the identity and access management system, and then the login process with a standard user or with a distributed identity user. So the first step is to get the admin token. For this step, we have to call the token endpoint of the of Keyclock, which is reachable at this endpoint. We have to specify the grant type client credential, put the username and password of the administration user in the basic authorization as basic authentication in the authorization header, and then we can call this endpoint and receive the access token. Then we can use this access token to call the client registration API exposed by Keyclock, which is reachable at this endpoint. We'll have to put the access token as bearer token in the authorization header and specify the information about the user, the username and password in the credential field, email, role, first name, last name, and enable true, and email already verified. So we can call the endpoint, and we receive the successful 201 created response. And so we also can verify this and retrieve the user using the same access token as bearer token, and then specifying the parameters, the email of the user. And we receive all the information about the user. Then we can register a client. We have to use the same access token. And put the information needed for the client ID, name, and other information, and mainly the redirect queries. We can register the client. Okay, create the client. So we can move to the login process, and okay, this I use the OAuth2 authorization type of Postman, which permit to specify the configuration to integrate, to interact with the Keyclock authorization server. And so I can specify the grant type authorization code with Pixie, the callback URL of the client, which is the same I registered for the client, the authorization URL and the token URL of Keyclock, the client ID. We don't need the client secret, the code challenge method, and the scope. So, for example, OpenID and VC consumer. the request is redirect on the KeyClock login page, and I can choose to log in with username and password or with self-sovereign identity. So if I log in with username and password, I receive the token, which is a JSON Web Token, and we can see this, the content on GTEO. We can pass the token here, and we can see all the information related to the user in the token, in the decoded token. I have to close and restart KeyClock Postman to, otherwise it takes the previous authentication. For self-sovereign identity, of course, the identity is managed with the UPort mobile app, and which will be substituted by our own wallet. And the registration, the user is not registered calling the endpoint. Sorry, just 1 minute, I have to open the door. Okay, sorry. And the registration process could be done issuing verifiable credential, and so we can see how in the second demo. And sorry, it is a bit slow. Okay. Very slow. Okay, so I start the login process. Then I choose login with SSE. A QR code is showed to retrieve the user information. I scan the QR code with my UPort app and choose login, consent to login. Then the flow is completed, and the client receive JSON Web Token with the information about the user, and for example, his distributed identifier, and also given name, family name, email, and so on. So that's all.